Anyone can have a gimme, but it really gets interesting when you go for two. The Go for Two podcast starting now.
All right, everybody, we're back. Oh my goodness.
Episode 12, man. Do you believe
Episode 12, November 23rd. And the news this week and the past couple of weeks actually have been pretty juicy. Everybody knows about the Brown situation, which we'll get into.
Yes, we will.
A couple of NCAA things, how the NCAA committee seems like a bunch of idiots for putting Minnesota number 8 and then after they were number 17. But we're back, guys. This is everybody's favorite couch quarterback, Dante, and I'm here with the stats guru, Don.
And we are back once again in studio. I know I have some people that like to hear that, so I'm telling them we're in studio.
In studio,
in
man.
Middletown, Delaware.
We are back again. So this is going to be the episode before the Thanksgiving that's coming up next Thursday. So we wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving if you're listening to us around that time.
Absolutely.
My dad will be in town.
That's awesome. And if you're anything like me at Thanksgiving, it's gobble till you wobble.
Gobble till you wobble. I'm already wobbling, Don. I need to lay off.
I hear you.
So, going to go ahead and get into, our favorite, the NCAA first.
Yes, sir.
Ohio State is currently in the lead on Penn State 21-7.
Oh, no. It just updated 21-14.
Oh,
Look
man. Penn State is coming back on these boys.
Number 2 versus number 8 in the college football ranking.
This could shake up a lot of stuff. The only person in the top 4 that has smooth sailing from this point out is Clemson.
I'm telling you, going into this week, Ohio State has an 85% chance of making the playoffs. Penn State only 10%, sitting at number 8 in the rankings. So that is definitely a game that's going to shake up the rankings.
Absolutely. All right. So talking about rankings, let's go ahead and get into these percentages like you were saying.
Absolutely. All right. Right now, LSU, of course, ranked number 1 with an 86% chance of making the playoffs.
So I know they're ranked number 1, and I got an opinion on that.
Okay.
How did somebody score 40 plus or 50 plus points or whatever it was? Or no, it was 600 yards. It wasn't 50 points. 600 yards, and you guys are still ranked number 1.
How about that?
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Exposing them. I still think Joe Burrow is number 1 in the Heisman right now, but let's not forget about what Jalen Hurts did last week.
Absolutely. Of course, we mentioned Ohio State with an 85% chance second. What do you think of this one, Dante? Clemson, ranked 3 with an 84% chance.
To make the playoffs?
To make the playoffs.
That's ridiculous.
Is that because of schedule or what?
I don't know. That's weird. I think it's probably because of everybody else that's around them and their strength of schedule.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to take in consideration that they haven't lost this year and their schedule's pretty easy from this way out, I mean, they do look like a superstar team again.
Yeah.
Except they didn't look like that against North Carolina, which we can argue all day. But I think they should be higher. At least 92%.
Okay. University of Georgia is ranked 4, and they have a 39% chance.
Probably the ugliest team that's in the top 4 right now.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like their quarterback. They do have a nice team, but yeah, that's
Jake Fromm is a NFL quarterback.
He will be, yes, and he will be ready.
He'll be an excellent human being and teammate.
Yep. And then 5, Alabama slides to number 5, but they actually have a higher percentage chance than Georgia with a 44% chance.
So let's see what Mackey Boy does this week at quarterback. So it's really going to depend on him and how they bounce back from Tua being injured. I know the press has been pretty heavy on Alabama this week, but we'll see what happens. And currently, Alabama's Wally Mop in Western Carolina 59-0.
That's a nice word. I like that.
Yeah. So they're going to be the scariest team because they got a lot they're fighting for. They're fighting for probably the best college player as far as role models go right now. So very interesting.
Absolutely. At number 6, this is a team you said to keep an eye on. This is the Oregon Ducks with a 28% chance.
Mm-hmm. We know they got a hell of a game tonight, man.
Yes, they do.
But I still think Oregon is going to sneak in there, at least in number 4. I think they will beat Arizona State. even though I picked Arizona State to be in the Pac-12 championship.
I think Arizona State's going to give them a battle tonight. I know Oregon's about a 14-point favorite, but man, if I was playing the odds, I would take Arizona State in the points. I think it's going to be a lot closer.
I think it'll be close, yeah. But I still think after this week, Oregon has to be talked about. And we know the head of the committee is Oregon's AD, so they actually said he walks out the room whenever they talk about him. So like that helps.
Number 7 is Utah, and they have an 8% chance.
I have a lot of feelings on the Utes.
Yeah.
But
did you say Utes?
Yeah, that's their name, right?
Oh, no, flashback to my cousin Vinny. What can I say?
Absolutely. But yeah, Utah, I mean, they put a bad taste in my mouth every year because it's like I think they just shoehorn them into the top 10 every single year. But yeah, I mean 6-1 on a 6-game winning streak since that loss. That's 6-1 in the conference, by the way. 9-1 overall. Now we'll see how.
I can see why they plug them in there, but I agree with the 8% chance. They're out of the top 9. They have the smallest percentage chance.
Pac-12 is the upset 12 because anything could happen any week.
That's it. Number 8 is Penn State, currently playing against Ohio State, and they have a 10% chance.
Yep. They got a rough schedule coming up.
Yes, they do. Oklahoma comes in at number 9 with an 11% chance.
Oklahoma. I know they beat Baylor, man. That was an amazing comeback. I thought it was 6 minutes left, and what Jalen Hurts did was absolutely incredible. Put stats to the side. My Heisman winner is Jalen Hurts, man. He's put the team on his back. Joe Burrow is good, but that whole team is pretty excellent. Impressive win over Baylor nonetheless, but I don't think they make it into the playoffs. Unless something just completely goes wrong.
Absolutely.
Clemson has to get upset. LSU has to lose.
Yeah, there's got
Oregon has to lose today.
There has to be a few things for them to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota rounds out the top 10.
I think they're going to remain there.
Okay.
I'll probably move up to 8. They'll win the rest of the year, but I don't think they move up that far. So then we got rounding out the top 15, right?
Yeah, we can go through the top 15.
All right, Florida. This is 11 through 15. Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan. Upset alert. That's my upset alert for next week. Them over Ohio State. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. I think this is the year that they do it. Baylor's at 14. Auburn's at 15.
There we go.
Notre Dame's at 16. Iowa, another upset team, at 17. Memphis snuck up there at 18. Cincinnati's sitting clean at 19. Number 20, Boise State.
Yep.
Oklahoma State right now is playing. Iowa State, after their win, they moved up. USC at 23. Appalachian State. Can you remember when they were a Division II school, guys? Now they're ranked 24 in the college football playoff committee. And then SMU, a team that Don's been liking all year long.
Yeah.
Rounding out 25.
I've been following them in Memphis pretty close this year. I really like those two teams a lot. They're not your top tier teams, but they are exciting to watch.
Even Iowa State being in there is pretty interesting. So we can't forget the elephant of the room today. Tua suffered that horrific injury, very similar to Bo Jackson, but except this actually fractured his pelvis.
Yeah,
and then the ball joint itself dislocated on the back of the pelvis.
Exactly. So
the concern there with that injury is if the blood flow, because ligaments and tendons and veins and even the bone itself can start deteriorating without blood flow. So pretty serious stuff. They said his surgery was successful. He's hopeful on his return. One of the things that Nick Saban said is he gave him a call to try to cheer him up after his surgery, and he was like the type of person he is. He cheered me up. So great guy for college football. I know we don't talk about him enough. but he's been the most efficient passer in college football history up to this point. So that can't go unnoticed. But we do, hope that he has a hopeful return. Actually, before the show, Renaissance Bank in Alabama, which is a community bank down there, they released a commercial on Tua and how he brought a community together and kind of some unorthodox records that he's broken. But you guys just have to go see the commercial. And I told Don, in our field of work, that's how it should be done.
Yeah, that was excellent.
So, just to get your thoughts on it, Don, before I go ahead and start, because I'm not happy with the media, and I'm not even involved directly with them. But as we know, this is a big blow to college football in general, a big blow to Alabama's team. But I do think they're going to be a scary team for here on out. They're coming with a vengeance now.
Yeah. It was a tough situation. I mean, they were leading 35-7 over Mississippi State, and it was a second quarter score. Tua's had some nagging injuries all year, hasn't played complete games, with the ankle issue.
3 surgeries in 2 years or something like that I was reading.
So, coach was thinking about taking him out of the game. He really wanted to stay in the game. He stayed in, and then this horrible injury happens. His Heisman hopes are gone. Possibly the team playoffs hopes are at least damaged. I won't say they're impossible because they very well could be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to impact his draft status. I mean, is he going to be a future Dolphin or Bengal? He's definitely going to lose some coin in the draft because of this.
Yeah, his game is not the typical. I mean, he does make plays on his feet when he can. But his arm is the most efficient thing that he has. So that's a good news for a lot of teams. But I do think that he should come back, and he probably will. Knowing the type of person that he is, he will come back, and that's going to be, if they're not projected to be the number 1 team to be in the college football playoffs and win, some people are just ignoring what the possibilities are when Alabama's motivated.
Yeah, and I mean, is this a situation where we say we have to point a finger of blame, or is this just one of those things that happen and it's unfortunate and we have to move on?
So this is the thing. A lot of people were saying that he should have sat out this year. He should have put him back in the game, this, that, and the third. But as being a former player, I don't blame him for wanting to play. This is exactly what the media has been saying. Is this guy really motivated to play football? It's absolutely unfair. Like, I mean, I was watching ESPN the one day, and I forget who was saying this, but they're like, he should have sat out the year, blah, 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 blah. This is borderline almost saying it was his fault why this happened. But you got the Jadeveon Clowneys and the Joey Bosa's and all these other guys that sit out the year. And, of course, incredible players on their own.
Right.
But are they really motivated by football, or are they motivated by the money? Tua is motivated by football. And it's very evident on why he wanted to stay in the game. He knew the risk that he was taking by getting in, no doubt. Yep. Every play, you're risking something bad to happen, especially being in his position. But I damn near threw my TV remote down and turned off the TV when I heard that. So the guy that you want to be the poster boy in your sport just so happens to get hurt. This guy's not motivated by money. If it was all about the money, he would have sat out the year just like everybody else was doing. But he's an incredible teammate. He's an incredible human being. And, I mean, he's still a kid, man. I mean, it's unfortunate that we shouldn't be talking about our future players like this. This is the guy that you should want to be on an NFL team to represent your team that you know is not motivated by money. AKA, everybody likes to hate, but Tom Brady is one of those guys. Splits his salary almost every year to get the players.
Yep.
So this is another Tom Brady-ish kind of situation that he's not selfish. He wants to win and he wants to help his team. So why would you kick a man when he's down? It's absolutely unfair, and especially that it's not a. He's a grown man, but he's still a kid. He's still in college.
True.
That's just kind of how I feel about it. I think it's absolutely unfair. But the people that did reach out, I know Tim Tebow said he reached out to him, and seeing what that community bank did kind of makes you hopeful that you might hate on Alabama for winning so much, but the state of Alabama, they're not blaming Nick Saban. They're not, defacing his team or not coming after Tua for playing. Like, these fans understand. And I think Nick Saban was saying, like, I didn't want to take him out because we never really ran a 2-minute drill this whole season the correct way.
That's right.
And I think it's super important when we get to the playoffs because these games are going to be closer than you think. I get it. I don't place blame on Nick Saban. Nick Saban did say that, between him and Tua and his family, they don't think he made the wrong decision by keeping him in the game. So just leave it at that. It's not for anybody else to interpret at that point, and it's not fair. And it totally makes me hate the media even more. Like, I don't even want to watch ESPN and all these other sports programs just because of stuff like this. Trying to ruin the kid's future, man, and putting a bad name in a bad situation first before the actual, making sure this kid is good and ready to go. So I think he's coming back, Don. I don't know. I think he's gonna heal up, sit out a year, come back the next year, and these dudes they're roll tide for real. And everybody better be scared.
Yeah,
everybody better be very scared.
This is true. Yeah, wish nothing but the best for the guy because, like you said, he is a good guy, and it's nice to see that commercial that you mentioned and the support that the community's giving him. Yeah,
I'd say what you want about Alabama, but they're behind their team 100% on every single decision, and they're there for Tua. You can't say that a lot about any other team. So, a.k.a. Michigan wanting to get rid of John Harbaugh after all these years because he can't beat Ohio State, which Ohio State's been a top 5 team like every single year. So, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, that's kind of how we feel about the Tua situation. We're going to go ahead and move on to, -1 in the Heisman watch right now. But,
Yep.
We're going to start with rounding off with Joe Burrow, well-deserved, number 1.
Number 1, he's still there.
If he continues to win and puts up the numbers that he does, he's going to win.
Yeah, and the guy you mentioned, Jalen Hurts, is running number 2. Makes sense.
He's the best. If we're really defining the Heisman, which is like the MVP award, which is the most valuable player, I don't think Joe Burrow is the most valuable player to LSU. To be completely honest, I think Jalen Hurts, out of all the teams, is the most valuable player in college football. And I hope that the committee sees that, and I hope the votes are for Jalen Hurts at the end of the year, and they see the body of work and see how many games that he actually comes back and wins for Oklahoma. I think he should win it, and there's going to be another number 1 Oklahoma quarterback winning the Heisman this year if it was up to me. And say what you want about last year, Kyler Murray did deserve it.
Yeah,
he was the best player on his team. Number 3, Justin Fields.
No argument here.
The only reason why he's not number 1, because he would be number 1, to be completely honest, over Jalen Hurts, because he would just pad the stats, is because they take him out.
Yep, they sure
out of
do.
every game.
I don't think he's coming out today.
He's not coming out today, and if he puts up impressive numbers today, he'll skip over Jalen Hurts. Not sure if Joe Burrow really has to have a bad game. What's the stats on him now?
Fields right now is 13 of 19 for 148 yards and 1 touchdown.
So J.K. Dobbins must be
21-17 right now. Ohio State.
Is that J.K. Dobbins is carrying the workload?
Dobbins 29 carries, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And we're coming down to the last couple minutes of the third quarter in that game.
Justin Fields 15 carries, 77 yards. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't turned the ball over, so if they win, that's going to be a big win for them.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard is
there
sitting
he is.
at number 4.
You were watching him when I got here.
This is the first time I actually saw him. I haven't seen any highlights on him this year, but he's a slick little running back, man. Reminds me a lot of LaShawn McCoy, but he's like slippery, like a snake. And then we got number 5, which I don't agree with, Chase Young.
Got a defensive player there, and our second Ohio State Buckeye in the top 5.
I don't see it. I've seen the highlights on him. Just like, maybe I'm part of the minority on that.
Well, I don't mind having a defensive player in the discussion, but I don't know if he's top 5.
No, I don't. I think me and you totally agree with that. But I think one person that should be number 5 is that boy from Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, man. How many times you got to put 3 and 4 touchdown games?
I know, and he's sitting at 7 right now. Tua at 6. He's dropped to 6. And then Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin's running back, at 7.
Yep. Trevor Lawrence, 8. And then Justin Herbert, number 9. Not surprising.
No, not at
Players that we talked about before the season. NCAA games to watch this week, guys.
Okay, of course, the first one is just for ranking. It wasn't one of the ones we selected, but for obvious purposes of ranking, the Ohio State-Penn State game, which is going on right now.
And it's looking like the game of the week. 17-21
be.
Ohio State right now.
Yep, it could be.
Don's game of the week, Boise State and Utah State.
Yeah, I'm liking those Mountain West teams.
Yeah, man. Pretty good.
And Dante's got Texas versus Baylor.
I think
that's going to be a good game.
I think Texas needs something to crack the top 25 again. And Baylor, are they really how did they respond after the loss? When people were talking about them possibly being in the top 4. Speaking
of Texas versus Baylor, I'm going to take that as my upset alert.
See?
I like it.
Yeah. I totally think it's going to be a good game, truly, to watch. And then my upset alert, Texas A&M over Georgia. I feel like Georgia's not as good as what they say they are. I feel like the committee was way too generous with putting them in the top 4, and I think they're going to get exposed today.
That's a possibility.
And Jimbo Fisher thrives off of telling you that you're not that good of a team as you think you are. So that kind of rounds out our NCAA, guys. Let us know on Facebook if you listen to this episode how you feel about any of the topics that we talked about today. I know I got a little passionate about Tua, but you got to call a ball, a strike a strike.
There you go. And
we're just going to start with the NFL right off the gate with the Myles Garrett situation. One situation over to another one. It's been crazy, man. But we got to talk about it.
Yeah, so, we are hitting the hard topics this week.
I know some people will disagree with my opinion on that, but I've looked at it for a couple of different angles. Myles Garrett, was he totally wrong for using that helmet to hit Mason? Well, that's going to depend on what he actually said, in my opinion there. Maurice Pouncey, incredible teammate. That's all I can say. I don't blame him.
I do not blame him at all, man. That's the teammate you want.
Do I think Mason Rudolph should be suspended for 1 or 2 games? I think a 1-game minimum. Myles Garrett, depending on if they can prove if Mason Rudolph didn't say anything, he's suspended for the rest of the season, and I think they should suspend him for 4 games next year too, just to set the precedent that's not right. As a player, there's a well-known rule is you don't pull another person's helmet off.
Right,
doesn't matter.
Right.
And then unless you played, you probably won't know that's one of those unwritten rules, kind of like on baseball when the pitcher's throwing a no-hitter, you don't talk to the pitcher. Yep. So it's just one of those things. So this is kind of how I feel about the situation of breaking it down, right? Some people think that the hit was late or that it was too much involved with it. Got to understand that Mason Rudolph had a terrible game. My boy threw 4 picks. I think he had a fumble or 2, and he was getting destroyed by Myles Garrett all night. What is that? A culmination of things, especially when there's 8 seconds left in the game and he's coming at you? you might be a little upset. So, how the situation goes, maybe there was a little bit of a scruff after. Nobody really knows. Maybe there was talking back and forth. Nobody really knows. I just saw Mason Rudolph knee Myles Garrett in the groin area, then grab his helmet. Then Mason Rudolph proceeds to grab, or Myles Garrett proceeds to grab Mason's helmet, take it off. Then Mason is still coming at him talking junk. Then he swings the helmet. DeCastro had his whole body, held back, so he couldn't swing with his other hand if he wanted to. So there's a lot of things in the dynamic, and everybody knows what happened after the fact. So I don't blame anything else that happened. It was just the heat of the moment. People saw people's teammates like fighting. I don't blame any of the other guys. What I really blame is Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph. I think suspensions should have came down pretty hard on them. Now, Don, here's where it gets a little tricky with some people.
Okay.
Do I think Myles Garrett deserved his suspension? Only if Mason Rudolph didn't say a racial slur. But what I'll say to that, because I'm not saying that I wouldn't swing my helmet back at him, especially if he's jaw-jacking coming towards me again. If he was just like, nope, I ain't going after him, it is what it is, none of this would ever happen. Maybe they would have got suspended one game and a fine. But because the helmet got swung and hit him in the head, that's where the issue was. Now, everybody, here's the hard part. On me being an African-American man, I'm going to say something that probably a lot of people aren't saying. If it was somebody that called me a racial slur on the field, then proceeded to grab my helmet, and then I swung my helmet in retaliation because the rest of my body's getting held back, I'm not going to say that I would be opposed to doing the same thing Myles Garrett did. Now, this is where the dynamic gets a little tricky. If he did say it, I'm not going to shut up about it. I'm not following what the team is telling me to say. I'm telling his teammates, he called me the N-word. He said this, blah, blah, blah. That's bull crap. I'm getting on the mic. I'm yelling, screaming. I'm letting you know that that's what he said, and I'm not letting it go. So that's all I'm gonna say. I don't think Myles Garrett's thoughts hold, or his words hold any water because of that. Because me personally, hold the same energy.
Right.
Even in your press conference there, don't say, I apologize. No, don't go and then appeal and then say that's what he said. I would tell the team, no, he said something racial, and I'm gonna put it out there. That's how I feel about it, Don. Like I think that he deserves every little bit of suspension that he got.
Yeah, that was my big question. Was this whole thing in the heat of competition between rivals, or was that just a violent outburst? That would have brought charges off the field if it wasn't a football game. I agree with you. That point, I think, should be highlighted more than anything else. If there was that racial slur, that should have been the first thing he was griping about from
the whole
one.
time.
Yes. To wait and have that come out later,
a week
much later,
yeah,
when we're talking about appeals and everything, it doesn't hold the same weight.
No, because
it really doesn't.
And especially at his interview after, Maurice Pouncey even said, I'll take whatever suspension that they give me. He still appealed it, which I don't really mind, right? Because I'm being a good teammate. Like, somebody hit my quarterback. But for Myles Garrett to say, I understand, I shouldn't have lost my head, then why'd you appeal it in the first place?
Right.
You should have just took it. That would have held more water than you going to appeal it and then saying that Mason said that it was a racial slur.
Yep.
Nah, man, I can't say that nothing legal is probably going to happen to him outside of like the NFL, because now you are like ruining Mason Rudolph's character now by saying that he said some racial slur. And then Mason's got some things that he's got to look after too. I don't think there should be any legal action because he did antagonize the whole situation.
Right.
I mean, just from the tape, he antagonized the whole thing. Why are you running after a grown man that's being held back? It is what it is. Yeah, that whole situation, man, is kind of a cluster. But I don't agree with Myles Garrett. I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree that he said what he said about Mason Rudolph. I don't think Mason Rudolph is an angel by any means. He should have a serious fine for antagonizing the whole situation, and he should be suspended for at least 1 or 2 games. That was kind of my gripe about it. But Myles Garrett, you gotta sit on the throne on this one, my man. You gotta eat every little bit of bad stuff that's coming at you. And that's just kind of how I feel about that. So, did you want to go ahead and get into the other tough situation, or did you want to go through the stats first?
It doesn't matter, man. We going to end on a tough situation, or you want to end with stats? Your call on it? Are we on a roll?
Technically, let's just go through the stats because this is involving something that is in the season right now and people that are playing.
Yes. Okay.
So let's go through the stats.
That's kind of the way I wrote it. So let's see what we got here. We'll go through some individual stats first. Passing yards, 3,221. Dak Prescott.
Pay that, man.
There you go.
Hey, all the Zeke fans, where y'all at? 40 yards a game the last 2 games? He ain't eating nothing. So every time he wants to do that celebration, like he's eating some cereal or something when he gets a first down, tell him to put the spoon away. You ain't getting fed, Zeke. I'm sorry.
Now, number 2 in the passing, Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers has looked really bad this year, man.
Oh, he has.
Ooh,
he will not stop throwing the ball, though. He keeps throwing.
That's him with the ugliest throwing motion of all time.
But now, if he's throwing for 3,169 yards, Phillip Rivers, what does that say about Dak Prescott at 3,221? And the Cowboys barely a 500.
Pay that, man.
Barely a 500 team. Is he doing the same thing as Rivers? Just throwing?
Over the last 3 years, he's one of the most proficient quarterbacks. Pay him. Right. I mean, the statistics say otherwise. Like, I know people hate on Dak Prescott, and they think that that Zeke has done a lot as far as them winning, but I mean, Zeke has been nowhere to be found the last 2 games. Give that man his money.
All right.
And then you can always depend on him. He's not going to do something stupid on the offseason. You never know with Zeke. Is he going to be suspended 4 games? Or
this is
yanking some young girl's shirt now? Like, oh, God.
Yeah, he's a mess. Yeah, he's a cowboy. What can I say?
Yeah.
Rushing, Christian McCaffrey broke the 1,000-yard mark. He's at 1,059. And Dalvin Cook's right behind him at 1,017.
Yep, not surprising there.
No.
Two good guys I like to watch too, man. I can't say enough about Dalvin Cook. Can't say enough about Christian McCaffrey. Two guys that play the game the right way and just shut their mouth and do their job.
And can you imagine having both of them on your fantasy team?
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Yeah,
you got away with one of those, pal. We don't know how.
Yeah. Receiving, Michael Thomas is over the 1,000-yard mark, the only one right now at 1141. Mike Evans at 993.
Yeah, Mike Evans has made a resurgence because the first like 5 or 6 games, he was pretty quiet.
He was pretty invisible. I agree.
Yeah, you're making your boy Jameis Winston look a lot better than he actually is. It's kind of crazy. And Michael Thomas, man, is having a crazy good season.
He is having a really good season.
He's actually, I don't know, if you look at his stats, man, 12 yards on average, 94 receptions. He almost breaking 100 receptions at this point. 1,141 yards and 5 touchdowns. Another Ohio State guy. OHIU. IU. Want to talk about IO. All right.
Going into tackles now, we'll hit some of the defensive stats, individual stats. Jordan Hicks at 110 tackles.
Y'all boys let him go. And look.
Yeah, I know they did, man. You could count on one thing every year when Jordan Hicks played with the Eagles. He was hurt. Mm-hmm. He got hurt every year. So they let him go, and now he leads the league in tackles.
Yep.
That's typical Philadelphia, I'll tell you.
Blake Martinez has been in the top 3 like all year in tackles. So
sitting at number 2 at 102. Now, sacks.
One of the best Jones brothers.
There you go. Chandler Jones. 12.5 sacks.
Like I said earlier in the podcast episodes, my wife went to school, both Arthur and Chandler, and I think she said Chandler threw a cheeseburger at her or something. So
Hey, you remember me?
Yeah.
You threw a cheeseburger at me.
So shout out to Chandler Jones. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Jones, so he's low key like one of the best like linemen or defensive linemen out there.
Yep.
Like creepily like low key.
Yeah.
He's always in the sack leaders, man.
And he's one ahead of Shaq Barrett.
Shaq Barrett had a crazy like first 5 games.
I know,
too,
man.
Averaging like 2 sacks a game. He's kind of slowed down, but can't ignore that 11.5 sacks in the first 10 games is impressive.
And interceptions, we got a tie for first. Devin McCourty at the Patriots with 5. And how's that for a pickup for the Steelers? Minka Fitzpatrick
has won them games.
Yes, he has.
Literally. So if anybody wants to talk about MVPs right now, if you don't mention Minka Fitzpatrick in that conversation, I'm not talking about stats. I'm talking about big plays in a game and stepping up for your team.
Yeah.
Minka Fitzpatrick should at least be in that conversation. And I can make an argument for it. Look at all the games that they won.
Yeah.
Because of big plays that he did.
I'm telling you, kudos to the Steelers for picking this guy up.
That was probably one of the best trades of all time.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I knew he was going to be a good player because other teams were looking at him too, but man, he has really elevated their game.
Yeah. Yeah, he literally... The reason why the Steelers are even in the hunt still is because of him, because of one guy. He's probably like that whole defense has a bunch of playmakers on it, but give it to Minka Fitzpatrick making the big plays when they really need it.
All right, a few team stats, and to round out our stats, passing. Dallas is leading with an average of 312 yards per game passing. No wonder Dak being the passing leader, so that does make sense. Rushing, Baltimore Ravens averaging 203 yards a game.
It's like they got Jamal Lewis back there again.
Dude, those Ravens, man.
They're the Super Bowl favorites right now. If you absolutely do not say that they are, that is an incomplete statement. I'm letting you know right now that the Ravens are my pick.
I mean, they are looking fabulous. I mean, I thought it was going to take last year and this year for Lamar Jackson to get hooked up with everybody and then have a really good year next year. But he has elevated that team. He is definitely in the talk for MVP.
Yeah, remember how I was saying that it was ridiculous that people said that he didn't have an arm or wasn't accurate or anything? I'm like, I know we didn't talk about Lamar Jackson a lot, especially on the podcast, but outside the podcast, I've been telling people, like, if you watch him in college, his Heisman year, he was everything for Louisville. He was able to throw it, and of course he was able to run it, 203 yards per game. That's just not Mark Ingram doing that by himself.
No, it's Gus Edwards, it's Lamar Jackson, it's a team thing.
Dude, but Lamar Jackson is everything for that team and an incredible leader, and his teammates are like rallying behind him, which say what you want about the Ravens, and I know I grew up in Baltimore and they're not really like my favorite team, but say what you want, their front office is always excellent. It's like they might have a slow year here and there, but then a resurgence is for real. Like when they won against San Francisco a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, it was like Ravens came out of nowhere.
Yep.
This is another thing. If they win the Super Bowl, me and Don are telling you right now that they are one of the best teams.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to let go of people if they have to. They don't show that overabundance of loyalty like that was topic of conversation on Philly Sports Talk Radio on the way down here on how they, had aging veterans that they just felt indebted to and gave them, re-signed them this year and paying them all kinds of money, and then they're hurt or they're not playing up to par. Man, when Flacco was not Flacco anymore, they had no problem getting rid of him and moving on.
Yeah.
You got to hand it to him.
Yeah, you got to hand it to them. They make the difficult decisions that seem to always work out for them. But let's not forget the fact that they made the New England's defense look silly.
Oh, yeah.
The best, and they're by far the best defense.
Yep. Yards allowed, New England is still the stingiest team, only allowing 249.9 yards a game.
That's crazy, man.
Going into sacks, we have two teams tied with 39 sacks. That would be San Francisco and Carolina.
San Francisco and Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, Carolina's defense has looked pretty good, man. I can't even lie on that one. Just to kind of put it in perspective on how good the Ravens are.
Okay.
I'm looking here right now, and their team got close, if not over 300 yards on their average of 249.
Wow.
So they got the formula to beat them.
Yeah.
And they'll probably meet them in the AFC Championship.
I think they just.
I don't think the Chiefs got it this year.
No.
I don't think they have enough pieces.
No, they're not.
And I know you were saying the same thing. I was very high on them at the beginning of the year. You said they're going to take a slump, which they did.
Yeah.
And then turnovers. New England at 18. The old man Devin McCourty's out here with 5 of them things.
Okay, games to watch.
We both picked this one, Packers and the 49ers.
What a game that's going to be, man.
Too many good implications there.
Looking forward to that one. All right.
We're going to get into another difficult situation. I'm not going to Stephen A. Smith this one.
Okay.
But, I mean, you got to call a ball, a strike. Having grown up in a military family, I'm just putting this out here just to begin. Growing up in a military family, you know, respecting my black and my white side, looking at things as a whole, how I would have handled it, thinking about the corporate life. There's a lot of factors in the play here, but of course we're talking about Colin Kaepernick's workout. There's a lot of things that I've always agreed and disagreed with, but I've kind of always walked the line that I agree more with what Kaepernick did. But this one, I'm a little playing the fence on both sides because it could have been handled much better than it was. So, Don, I'll let you go ahead and get started, man, on your feelings about it. I know this is a touchy subject for everybody, but this is all due to interpretation, and these are just our thoughts and feelings on it. But we're hitting a tough topic that I know that some people are either going to agree and disagree with. But like I said, you know, it's not our life either. So,
well, I'll start out with kind of easing into it here with his statistics. He was with the San Francisco 49ers, of course, as quarterback from 2011 through 2016. Colin threw 73 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, had a 59.8% completion rate, and an 88.9 passer rating. So when you hear those statistics, he's a good quarterback.
Most quarterbacks are under 65% this year.
Not a great quarterback every year, but a good quarterback. Okay? He had some years better than others, understandably. And then, of course, everything kind of snowballed the third game in 2016 when they observed him sitting down during the Star Spangled Banner. He had some interesting quotes about why he didn't. I think he could have worded things a lot better by saying he refused to stand to show pride in the flag for a country that oppresses blacks and people of color. It's a true statement, but I think he could have worded it better. It's a true statement. It's a good statement to call attention to things like this. But my big thing with Colin is he comes across to me as he thinks he is the mouthpiece, the one individual that speaks for all. He doesn't come out and say, I feel. He comes out and says, we. And I think that's where he dropped the ball on this. I think by grouping himself generically, he doesn't speak for everybody, and that's why he has detractors and he's having such a tough time. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he was not in football, people were saying, hey, he's saying all this stuff. Let's put your money where your mouth is. You're making money in the NFL. So what did he do? He did. I got to hand it to him. He made a couple larger donations and then grouped up $10,000 donations to several different groups. You know, should he still be playing? Yeah, I think he should be. Is he
Absolutely.
Is he better than most backups in the NFL right now? Yeah, probably. Is he better than some of the starters? Could be.
Yep.
He should be in football.
One thing that I don't want to stray away from is that he did sit the bench that one game while the national anthem, but then followed up by Nate Boyer, who is one of our Green Berets and former Seahawks long snapper. Wrote a letter to Colin Kaepernick and said, "Why don't you kneel instead of stand?"
Right.
So, I know I'm going to get a little passionate when I say this. Do not forget the fact, America, that one of your own soldiers told him to do that. Right. That it was a better way. So
right.
Stop thinking that Colin Kaepernick is kneeling because he wanted to be disrespectful. Your own soldier told him that was a better idea.
It was a better idea. And, hey, look at Tim Tebow. He knelt, and where was the uproar on that? There was to an extent because they didn't want to tie religion into it, but
I don't know how many times that I didn't stand for the national anthem or took a knee or was talking to somebody or had my hand in my shoulder pads like this.
Right.
I'm worried about the game, you know? So, but this is how I kind of feel about it. And I know we'll get into his workout and everything and how much of he put his foot in his mouth, but the whole situation to me goes like this. I don't think it had anything to do with defacing our flag or and people getting butthurt that he was actually doing it, because people are going to form their own opinions. And if you don't think that there's racial sublines in this whole thing, and I'm just coming out and saying it, you're crazy.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
I can name a bunch of people that I grew up with in the South that are Trump supporters. Not the fact that I don't care if you support Trump and everything, but the South is mostly a Republican.
Yep, absolutely.
North Carolina, mostly probably Republicans, right? But the whole narrative is Trump supporter, probably a former racist, probably have said things that were racist.
Yeah.
Find me one person in the NASCAR community is not a Republican. Let's start there. So I would just put that out there. But then again, I support everything that he was doing. Mm-hmm. I probably would have did the same thing, to be completely honest. And this is coming from somebody that father was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Army. My aunt was in the Air Force. My uncle was in the Army. My other uncle was in the Air Force. My uncle by marriage, he worked for the Pentagon. I've grew up around my grandfather and his grandfather and the story goes back to even my great grandfather marching from Forsyth County, North Carolina, going to Gettysburg and dying there in the war.
Right.
So I have a lot of roots related to the Army and the military and things like that. So don't think that I'm taking this lightly, because I'm not. I just think that a lot of you guys are butthurt about it, to be completely honest. A lot of people, and excuse my French, don't have the balls enough to do what he did. Let's just put it out there. He was fighting for a cause that he thought was right. Maybe like Don said, maybe he could have worded some things here and there, but that's up to interpretation always when you do stuff like that. But then again, if it was me, I probably would have did it for 2 or 3 games to get my point across. But then my team would have been like, hey, we can't do that.
Right.
Well, what can I do?
Yep.
For the team where it's not causing so much attention, because I am employed by the NFL.
Correct.
And then I have to put my feelings aside. This is extra provided. I use my platform to get my point across.
Right.
I didn't have to do it every single game, but I got my point across. Everybody knows. Everybody's formed their opinion. But now what does my employer want me to do? Because what really matters is that my team needs to win games.
Absolutely.
That's where I disagree with Kaepernick and his whole stance. Everything that he said has been true. Some of his action by wearing the pig socks, a little bit too far.
Yep.
Say what you want about Fidel Castro. I could kind of argue. I know where he was coming from in that,
right.
But you have to realize that you can't leave things like that up to interpretation.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I stand on it. It's never the fact that I disagree with how people were feeling. I do disagree about the fact that you think it was disrespectful to our flag. I absolutely think that. If this was the case, all the people that are out there watching sports or watching the Super Bowl every year where we do get to see the national anthem, I want you to get up while you're at the bar, take your hat off and put your hand over your heart when you see it. I'm just saying, don't be a hypocrite.
Yep.
Why should you have to be in a public place to do it?
Yeah, I mean, you've really worded this very well, Dante. I have no problem with the fact that he did that game, but the continuation despite what the team wanted, I think that's the biggest issue right there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other teams that have had other displays during the anthem, and that's fine. But when the team tells them no, they stop. And I think that's the bottom line.
You're not bigger than the team, no matter.
I agree.
No matter if you think that or not. Your paycheck said the San Francisco 49ers and was signed by the president of the company. Or of the team. I'm sorry. Like, that's where I disagree. I mean, now with this workout, that was a total disaster.
Wow.
I kind of think that was another participation trophy kind of situation. And Eric Reed should just shut up. I don't want anything associated with the guy anymore. He puts his foot in his mouth all the time. But for you to say that, like, people need to stop hiding and this, that, and the third, Colin, you have to understand. Granted, I think the best place for him to go right now, and that's what I was telling my wife, was either him or somebody like Cam Newton should go to the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Mike Tomlin and that team would rally around him. We've already saw what they did for Mason Rudolph.
Right.
So what do you think if you put somebody like him and having Villanova, whatever his last name is, that's the offensive lineman there, that was actually in the military, it would actually probably be beneficial to his career because now you have a former military vet on your team. Mike Tomlin is all about his teammates. That team has always been a cohesive unit. Granted, if he goes to the Steelers, it's probably going to be a damn uproar.
Right. He goes anywhere, it's going to be an uproar. Just like when Michael Vick went to the Eagles. I mean, yes, Mike Vick served his time in jail for what he did. What he did was totally horrific. Some people to this day have not forgiven him what he's done.
But you know what, Don? Winning cures everything.
Yeah, but he also, the Eagles gave him a chance to overcome the public image where he worked with animal shelters and donated and was the voice of, and he did the right thing. And a lot of people have changed a little bit on the way they felt about him.
Yeah,
but
he
they
did his time.
But they did have a show. There were protests every game. People with signs and everything protesting while he played. Some teams going to have that if they sign Colin. And do they want that? That's the tough part.
One thing that my grandma told me, right, is don't feel like you didn't give a second chance to a person that you think deserves it.
Right. I agree with that.
So I think with the Michael Vick situation, he did his time. He did everything he was supposed to do, and he hasn't done it again.
Exactly.
And has been an incredible human being. But people still hate on this guy. Okay, at this point in time, you're a crappy person for thinking that way. I understand that you might be a dog lover, an animal lover, this, that, and the third. But if something was to happen to you and you made a mistake, you would want somebody to give you a second chance too. Right. I mean, I don't know how many cheating spouses or like people that wrongfully killed somebody or, you know, just done anything out of desperation or out of, you know, just making the wrong decision at the time. But they, of course, if the situation was reversed, you wouldn't want a second chance too. I'm sorry. That's just the straight facts about the whole situation. You wouldn't want a second chance. And Colin Kaepernick, what he's doing is blaming somebody else for not giving him a second chance because he doesn't want to give in a little bit. And he's just being whiny at this point in time, saying that people need to stop hiding and this, that, and the third. Like, we know that you can help a team out, Colin, but when you get here, are you going to be able to deal with the backlash? Are you going to be able to do, for example, the Philadelphia Eagles way or the Pittsburgh Steelers way? Are you going to give in to that? And we'll figure out something in the middle where you can do it and we'll understand your cause. I don't think people are not understanding that there is, you know, situations of oppression and things like that. We get it, Colin. We absolutely do. You were the voice because of that. You know, you put that on a platform. You use your platform to make that a priority. But now that the point has been proven and that there's ways for people to help, I'm not saying stray away from it, but you got to, if you really want to play football, you got to give into some of the ways that the NFL, are presented to you. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too, man.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen A. Smith did have a quote, and I don't necessarily agree with the whole quote itself and the narrative the way it went, but I do like part of it. He says about Colin, he was quoted saying that you don't want to work, you just want to make noise and control the narrative. That second part, make noise and control the narrative. If he can get over that, and if that is not his case, he wants to play football, then the man should play football. But if he really wants to make noise and keep the control of the narrative and upheaval and be the sideshow for the team, nobody's going to sign him.
Yeah, I totally think at this point in his career, a team might be able to support him if he was to give in to their ways. But I'm sure if he was like, hey, I can't really forget about what I did, or I can't, stray away from of my beliefs. Can we work 50-50? Maybe they'll do a day where it's like half of the ticket proceeds go to his cause.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure he could finesse his way in there to say, let me help you, help me.
Right.
But it's not any of that. It hasn't been like, here are my stipulations. I'm willing to do this. Who's willing to meet that?
Yep.
Who's willing to go against the grain? That way I can help you win and you can help me out. So, I mean, but, it's going to be a 60-40 situation. You're going to work 60% for the NFL and the other 40 is going to be for your cause.
Yep.
But, I mean, people have different, charities and things like that, too. So, that's just kind of how I feel about, the Colin Kaepernick situation. I know it's a hard subject for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like to be told that the way that they're thinking is naive or not right. But, like I said, if you did something wrong, would you want a second chance?
Yep.
I'm not saying what he's doing right now is right, because I totally disagree with it. But you can't be defacing people's character and things like that. And you have to realize the facts are the facts. Nate Boyer, a Green Beret, told him to kneel before the flag.
Yep. And
it was still taken as Colin Kaepernick did it. All right. So don't blame your boy for suggesting it, So that kind of rounds out episode number 12, man. It's just rocking and rolling and
a lot of things going on, man.
A lot of stuff going on. I just hope we can just get back to football at one point or another. That's why I watch college now. I can't watch NFL anymore. It's hard. I mean, 8 seconds left in the game, and we're hitting people with helmets and stuff.
It's getting rough.
Yeah, the egos are at an all-time high. So we're closing out here. Let's see, 2 minutes before an hour?
Wow. And keep in mind, people who do follow our podcasts, we have a 2-week break coming up where we're not going to be recording again on the 7th like we normally would. We both have things going on the next 2 weekends. So it might not be till the 14th till we can get back together again.
Yep. So everybody enjoy the holidays, man. I know it's kind of a tough time to do a podcast as well. You want to be with your family, and Christmas shopping has to be done and things like that. So everybody enjoy your Thanksgiving next week, and we'll be back on the 14th. My birthday's on the 1st. My wife's birthday's on the 10th of December. This is and also her mom's birthday is the day after Christmas. This is just not a month for me
kidding? Let me throw in 2 for you.
Oh, snap. Okay.
My wedding anniversary is 2 days after Christmas. We're talking 37 years.
Yep.
And then my mom's birthday is 2 days after that.
This is a no money having month for
I'm
me,
telling
man.
you.
Right before tax season.
Yep.
That's crazy. So everybody enjoy your weekend. Look out for these upset alerts. Hopefully, Oregon can pull it off and be our Pac-12 champions this year.
Hey, and keep an eye out on Facebook. Even though we're not doing the podcast, we'll be throwing up our games of the week and upset alerts. We'll try to keep some of the stuff that we would normally talk about. We'll try to put some little more stuff up on Facebook just to keep the conversation going.
And I feel like we're everywhere now, man. Spotify, iTunes, Breaker, Radio Plus or Radio Public, whatever it's called. We're on all kinds of platforms, guys, and we always post the links there.
And I've been contacted just early stages, but we may have another live recording coming up here in the next month or so.
Yeah. So
hopefully that'll be coming up soon, because we got some ideas what we want to do with it.
Yep. So in December, we're going to be down in the bowl game month.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of implications for the national championship.
Yep.
So the 14th might be a really juicy episode coming up here
that's
soon.
going to be a busy day, man.
It's going to be crazy.
We'll have podcast, and then we got UFC fights that night, man.
That is very true. That is very true. So we are UFC fans outside here as well. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's never a gimme. Always go for 2, guys. And we'll see you for episode number 13 on the 14th.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Go for 2 podcast. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at the Go for 2 podcast. Also, if you liked what you heard and don't want to miss an episode, please follow us on iTunes.